Am I on? Good morning. Making sure I'm not John. I'm not wearing blue today. Thought I'd give John a day off. And I'm kind of somewhat disappointed that we have a small turnout. I think people must have heard that I was preaching and didn't show up. But a lot of them that are out, this message was meant pretty strong for them and for me and for many of us in here. But the ones that are out today, I think they need it more than any of us. I want to ask y'all a question. How are things going for you right now? Was that on that sign right there? Is your life doing good right now? Are things going good for you? You just moving along through life, walking upright. God's throwing blessings your way, showering you with blessings, and your life is wonderful. Things couldn't be no better. How many of you are going through that right now? Don't look like many, are you? Don't look, it does it. You know, we're getting older now, and a little more difficult on us to get around and do the things we used to do. Ailments, sickness. You walk down the hall, you bump your arm on the door, don't pay no attention to it. 2 days later, you look at your arm and you got a 4-inch bruise on it from just bumping into the door. That's what most of us are going through right now. Most of us have different ailments. I've had a stroke. I got spinal stenosis, which will never get any better, and I just went through lung cancer. Most of us are going through similar things, and we're being knocked to the ground. And I look at life as two different types of people out there. Those that life is going good for, they're being blessed and they going through life at high speed, showered with blessings, walking upright. And there are those that have been knocked to the ground and doing everything they can to get back up and start walking upright again. Some of them will get back up. Some of them may take a long time for them to get back up. Some of them may never get back up. They'll spend the rest of their life crawling on the ground, doing everything they can to get back up. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Calvin, can you put those verses up? Y'all can see my scribbling notes. I'm still not going to use a computer. I'm going to write everything down. It's almost like those people up in the stratosphere out there walking. And there are many things that can knock you down. Illness, sickness, your finances, family problems, trouble with a cousin, a nephew, a son, a daughter. Family issues can devastate you. Spiritual problems, death of someone. Sometimes it takes a long time to get over a death, and it can bring you down to the ground. But there's so many things out in this world that can bring us down. Illness, sickness, that's just one thing. There are many things out there that can bring us down. I want to read to you today from 2 Corinthians, I believe it's chapter 12. I know I'll start with verse 7. Hope I'm in the right place. Yeah. Now, a lot of you use the New International Version. What's up here is going to be from the King James Version, and I use the David Jeremiah Study Bible, but it all says the same. At least I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of revelations there was. Given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan, to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore I will rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distress, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Go back to 7, Calvin. He talks about a thorn in the flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I be exalted above measure. A thorn in the flesh from a messenger of Satan. No one knows exactly what it was Paul had. Many scholars think it was epilepsy, but he had something. Could have been a bad back. I don't know. Could have been bad feet. Most of them think it's epilepsy. But he had a pretty severe thorn in his flesh. He had something. He had something in him that was debilitating. But he kept going. 3 times he prayed to the Lord to take it away. 3 times. You ever had something and you prayed to the Lord to remove it, to help you with it? We do it all the time, don't we? All the time. We do it all the time. Now, I know that day in February, I was out there working in the yard, and I happened to have my phone on me, which is very unusual. Normally, I leave my phone in the house and going to work. I don't want nobody calling me while I'm working. I don't want to talk. I'm not a phone person. If you call me, I'm going to say, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Bye. I'm not that. I don't want that phone around me when I'm out there working. For some reason, that day I had it on me. I don't know why. Maybe the Lord put it on me. And it rang, and I looked at it. It was my doctor's office. Kind of knew right then what it was. And when I answered it, it was my doctor himself talking. And I knew that was unusual. I'd already had a lung scan a week and a half earlier. He said, Ward, you need to sit down. I was standing by the well. I sit down right on the well. He says, no other way to put this, Ward, you've got lung cancer. And I'm going to tell you, that floorboarded me. It's a good thing I was sitting down. It hit me like a ton of bricks when you hear those words from your doctor. You've got lung cancer. Now, lung cancer is a little different now than it was 20 years ago, 50 years ago. 50 years ago, lung cancer was almost certain death. Been a lot of changes in medicine. So I knew it was a good possibility that I would survive it. I knew that. But still, when I got that initial news, I was knocked to the ground. And many of us are going through life and we're walking upright, and we're doing great. We're moving right along, being blessed. Then all of a sudden something hits you and floorboards you, knocks you straight to the ground. That's going to be the test of your faith. That's going to be the test of your faith. But then, concerning this thing, I plead with the Lord 3 times. He says, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in weakness. Now, Satan gave him that thorn in the flesh to put a buffer between him and God. He wanted to separate Paul from God. He wanted something in there to dig in, so Paul would stray away from the Lord. But as believers, Most of the time, when we are hit, and we are hit hard like that, we go closer to God. It humbles you. Your pants, you don't get too big for your britches. Your head don't swell. When you have one of these things hit you like this, it could be many things: financial problems, family problems, depression, loneliness, sickness, injuries, illness, many things. We go closer to God. And that's what Paul did. And this humbled him. And I'm going to tell you, when you get hit with something like that, it does humble you. If this church was the world, you would be no more than a small speck of microscopic dust in this world. And it humbles you. It humbles you. You think about Paul, who was a man of God, who was chosen by Jesus to preach the gospel. And if Satan will attack him with something, what makes you think he won't come after you? What makes you think he won't come after you? He will come after you and hit you with all he's got. But you know, there are some people out there that go through life just flying along, being blessed. And I'm glad. And I pray they keep going on like that. I pray they can go their entire life without one of these things hitting them. It would be nice. But the fact is, most of the time, most of us are going to get knocked down sometime. And like I say, sometimes you're not getting up. You're going to be down there crawling on the ground. And when we're doing great, we're going through life, we see those people on the ground. Yeah, we do. We reach down quite often, help them, touch them, pray for them, do what we can with them. But then we keep right on walking. And they somewhere behind us crawling along, trying to catch up. And just about every one of us in here, I don't know all of you personally or 100%, but just about everybody in here has something like that going on in their life or has had it. Or is going through it right now. We're not immune. Paul, the power of Christ was in him. He boasted about his infirmities. Because of that infinite power of Christ rest upon me. The power of Christ was in him. His weakness made his faith stronger. It made God stronger in him. The power of Christ lived in him. It made him greater. It made him a more powerful preacher. It lifted him up. His ministry was greater with that infirmity. It gave him more power in Christ. The least you are, the more he is. The least you are, the more he is. Therefore, most gladly, I would rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. He boasted about his infirmities. He said, it made me a better person, a better Christian, a better preacher. It strengthened Christ in him. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in needs, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. When I am weak, then I am strong. He is strong in Christ because of his weaknesses. When I started chemotherapy, I'd go in at Virginia Cancer Institute, and we walk upstairs, and it's like 31 chairs in a rectangle in there. Everybody's sitting in one of them. You got that chemo going in your port, attached to a little IV container. You're there for 3.5 hours or 3 hours. With me, the chemo made my magnesium level go down. I had to stay in there every day for an extra 2+ hours. They gave me what was called a 2-hour bag of magnesium that they put in it because my magnesium level, chemo affects people different way. It destroys my magnesium level. I was in it for at least 5 hours a day. One day I was in it for 6 hours and 20 minutes when most people are in it for 3 hours. I got to see a lot of people come in there on the time I was in there. And when you sit out there in the parking lot and watch those people walk in, clothes that are too big for them because they lose weight so fast. The bandanas wrapped around their head. I was blessed. For some reason, the Lord didn't take my hair. I don't know why. I actually prayed that the Lord take my hair and give it to some lady because I know how hard it is seeing these women when they lose their hair because their appearance means so much more to them than it does to a man. Nobody pays any attention to a bald man. But he decided to leave my hair on my head. And those people walked in that place and they had a sunken look in their eyes. And you could see they were sick and feeling bad. You could see it in them. And they walked in there slow because they were weak. The last 3 weeks I went in there, I would get out of the car. I'd walk to another car and rest, walk to another car and rest, walk to another car and rest, then get to the front door, rest, walk up the steps, rest, go in the building and rest, then go in that register. I was so weak. You can look at a person and tell when they're going through chemotherapy. Yes, you can. You can see them in a grocery store and anywhere. But they walking in there with the bandanas on their head, the clothes they fitted, eyes sunken, walking into that building. I started calling it the leper colony. That's exactly what I called it when I got in there. Nurses didn't like it at first. The people liked it, the ones going through it. They thought it was funny. They liked it. Because when you went in there, you were all the same. There was no difference in anybody. When you walked in that building and you went back with that group, that millionaire in that 3-piece Joseph A. Banks suit, and that homeless man I used to see with the nasty T-shirts, dirty jeans, and sandals that didn't fit him, they clippity-clopped every time he walked, they were on the same social level. When you got in there, there was no social system in there. There was no hierarchy. Everybody was equal. And we were all suffering. And we were all praying. They say that an atheist is an atheist until you put him in a foxhole and start firing a gun over his head. Then he's going to start to pray. A lot of those people, they weren't all believers. Most of them weren't. They prayed, though. I can guarantee you that they prayed. But we were in there was no difference in any of us. And I couldn't sit in that chair for 5 hours. That bag that was going into my chest was on one of them little scoot runners, whatever you want to call them, a pole going up with the clips on it and the wheels at the bottom. I would unplug mine, and I would get up and start to walk around. At first, the nurses didn't like it, kept trying to go back, but no. I'm not sitting in a recliner 5 straight hours, having that poison pumped into me. I'm getting up, moving around, and I did. And they begin to relax. And I would go around and talk to the people, and they begin to like it because I could help some of them. I could talk to some of them. Even if it was just a few words, that's all it needed. Some people didn't want to talk. Some all they wanted to do was talk. I couldn't get away from them. But I talked to them. I tried to relax them, and I tried to relax myself. It helped me by doing that. It helped me get through what I was getting through by talking to them, and I could say anything to them. And you all know that I yank people's chains in here. I've always got something smart to say to somebody. Y'all know that. That's me. That's what I do. I started doing it there. and I hit some of them pretty hard. There's one lady in it that had a brown wig, ugliest brown wig you ever seen in your life. Ugly. And she asked me about it one day. How did it look this way? She turned it. I said, it looks awful no matter how you put it on your head. It looks like somebody put a Wolverine on top of your head. She busted out laughing for 5 minutes. And it wasn't a polite laugh. She really thought it was funny. And she didn't mind me saying it because I was in her boat. We were all on equal terms. I hated going in that place. But when I got in there, I felt good and I felt comfortable. I was around a bunch of me's. I was around a bunch of me's. And I like that. Won't nobody superior to me, won't nobody below me. Everybody in there was crawling on the ground. Won't nobody strutting through there. Won't nobody walking through there having blessing showered on them. Well, I take that back. They were having blessing showered on them. But you would never know it by the way they were. They weren't strutting when they were coming through there. They were moving slow. And they kind of liked it when I would go around. The nurses almost encouraged me to, because I relaxed some of those people. I saw a lot of people, and one man, almost 80, he was going through chemo the second time, and he told me that was it. If it didn't work, he's never going to do it again. He said he's never going through it again. I saw a lot of people in there with different needs. The one I still think about a lot was my last treatment, was this young girl's first treatment. I would say early to mid-20s, young, blonde, very small. Had a 2.5 or 3-year-old boy with her. She couldn't get a babysitter. She couldn't find a babysitter. She had to take him in it with chemo. They set him on the floor right by her chair, let him play around. They brought a toy. I went over there and played with him, but he didn't want to. I can usually get through to kids. Struggle to get through to him. I didn't have enough time, really, with him. I wish I'd have spent more time with him. I wanted to tell her, today is okay and you'll go home and you'll be a little sick this week and do good. 5 weeks from there, you're going to be too sick to take care of this child. You're going to be too sick to take care of yourself. But I didn't have the heart, and I couldn't have told her that. I wanted to tell her that. I wanted to so bad, and I couldn't. Then there was a lady there that had lost her job, lost her car, lost her apartment. But there's certain organizations out there that help. Social services help with them, but there's certain agencies out there that help with cancer victims. They put her in like a halfway house. She lived there 3 meals a day. They took her to her treatments and brought her back whenever it was time. I felt so sorry for her. She lost everything. She lost everything that she had, except the clothes on her back. But it wasn't just the cancer victims I began to take a look at. I started to see other people differently. God showed me something. I started to see other people differently. Those that just have financial trouble. Those that have family issues. Those that suffer from depression, from loneliness. Those that are in serious distress from something. I began to see them in a different light. I'd gone through life most of my life, walking right like that, being blessed, things going along good. But 7 years ago, I had that stroke. 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with spinal stenosis. Went to work one day, couldn't even get on the fire truck, much less fight a fire, couldn't even step up on it. And then I had that spinal stenosis. And then I hit with lung cancer. But I'm so thankful. I feel blessed the Lord has put me through this because I see things I never saw before. I see the suffering of those people that I'd never seen before. It makes a difference in you. It changes you. Now I want to go back and read one thing. My grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect and weakness. Those issues that we have that are knocking us down, they should strengthen us. You should grow closer to God. You should grow closer to Him. They open your eyes to a different world. Those people that are crawling on the ground and just can't get up. One thing's hitting them after another. You rarely see people that aren't Christians. Some go through these things, but many of them you see go through life and everything is great for them. Satan has them. He has them in his back pocket. He's not going after them, but he will go after a believer. He will go after you if you believe in him. Satan will come after you. He will put a thorn in your flesh. And you're going to stray away from God, or you're going to get closer to him. In my case, it brought me closer. I'm closer to God now than I've ever been in my life. I see life differently now. I always saw it from up here. I never saw it from down here. It's a whole world down here. People that are suffering. It's a whole world of them. You know, you've all heard that if Christ come back to this earth, said, I want you to give me everything you got. If he went to a poor man who had very little, a poor woman that had very little, maybe the pocket, the money in the bank, a little money in the bank, maybe $1 in the pocket, an old car, do you think those people would give Christ everything they had? It's a good possibility. It's a good possibility. Would give up all that they had. Do you think if you went to someone who was very wealthy, had a nice home, a great retirement package, 401k, plenty of money in there with Jones, nice cars, a boat, plenty of money, plenty. And Christ come up and said, give me everything you got. Might. I don't know, though. Most people say that man had more to lose. He had so much more, he had more to lose. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. If you went to the bank and separated their belongings, yes, this man would have had more. That man worked all his life and got very wealthy. This other person's worked all their life, and they're flat broke almost. Very little. A few dollars in the bank, maybe an old broke down house, car that don't have run, and a few dollars in their pocket. That means just as much to that man as those millions mean to that other man. Maybe it means more to that person. Maybe it means even more that you would give up all that you have for Jesus. Sometimes those people down there on the ground are a whole lot closer to Christ than those that are flying through the atmosphere, flying through the stratosphere, doing great. Sometimes the ones down there on the ground are closer, a lot closer to Jesus than you think. They have as much to lose. They might not have but a little bit, but it's all they have. It's a lifetime's worth, just like that millionaire. It means as much to them as those millions mean to him. And I think most of them would gladly give it up to Christ. I think they would. Paul says, or the Lord says, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. And I saw that as I got weaker, as I got sicker. The last 3 to 4 weeks, I had said that I wanted to be at my Wednesday night Bible study and teach it every week throughout the entire thing. That's one of my goals. Week 5, I come in here very sick, and I taught it, and I did okay. But the next 3 weeks, I was so sick I couldn't leave the house. I won't go get no more than 30 seconds away from my bathroom. I was on a liquid diet, still going through chemo, sick every minute. Week 6, 7, and 8, I couldn't come here. That bothered me. I wanted to be here my Wednesday night class. I wanted to be here. I prayed to the Lord to give me enough strength to be here. I don't know whether I failed him. Maybe if I'd have gotten in the truck and started driving this way, the sickness would have gone away. I don't know. But I was too sick to get in my truck in 2 weeks. And that bothered me that I couldn't be here. But I know the Lord kept me strong throughout it. I read this verse, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in weakness. First time I heard that verse, I knew what it meant. Knew it. Years ago, 100th time I heard that verse, I knew exactly what they were talking about. I never fully understood it until I was knocked to the ground. That's the first time I understood that verse. I knew what it meant, but I did not understand it. I could not dig deep into it. And it's the truth. Your weakness is strength in God. It's made perfect in grace. I was reading something the other day on this, and it said Paul was hopeful and hopelessness. He was hopeful and hopelessness. We don't know what his thorn in the flesh was. We just don't know. We do know that just about every one of us in here, just about, I'm not saying all, have had a thorn in the flesh, have been knocked to the ground. Some of us are still down there. We haven't got all the way up yet. Some will get up, and some may never get up. They may spend their life on that ground. I do know this. God never promised us a rose garden. Never. Never. He never said you're going to go through life since you're a Christian and things are going to be great for you. What he said was, as you go through life, I'll be with you every step of the way. I will have my hand on your shoulder while you go through anything you go through. And he does. And he did with me. I do wish sometimes he'd have squeezed that shoulder a little bit tighter, but I knew he was there. And yeah, I was one of them at first that said, why me, Lord, why? I think we all go through that. But I quickly gave that up. I quickly stopped that. I knew why. I knew why. And I understood it. By the end of it, I relished it. I enjoyed what I went through, believe it or not. I enjoyed what I saw as I was going through it. I enjoyed some of the things in life I experienced as I was going through it. It changed me. It made me different. It made me realize no matter how hard you get knocked down to that ground, I don't care if you can't crawl, if you're laying on your belly trying to scoot, the Lord is going to be with you every minute. Don't lose your faith in him. Let him make you stronger. Allow him in your heart. He will make you strong. He will get glory out of you because of your weakness, because of your infirmity, as Paul called it. Every one of us are going to go through that, I believe, in our lives. I just hope when it hits you, you're ready for it. I hope when it hits you that you hold on to your faith. And I think a lot of you in here now, I know most of you, have been going through things like this. Many of you have been suffering for some time, going through something. Most of you have. And look where you are today. Look where your faith brought you today. After all of the things you've been going through, and some of you have been going through some tough times, and I know it. Where are you? Right here in God's house this morning. That's how strong your faith is. That's how strong God can make your faith. He will lift you up when you're at your lowest point. The weaker you are, the stronger He is. I'm going to close in a minute. We're going to sing a closing hymn. I'm not going to sing, even if Calvin leaves my mic on, because my voice is awful, and you're not going to hear it. But y'all going to sing. Y'all don't have a microphone on y'all, and most of y'all sing pretty good. But I want you to think for a minute about your life. If you're going through these things right now, are you? Do you need help? Do you know what those people down on the ground want? They don't want your pity. They want prayers. They want you to pray for them. And ever since I've been through this, my prayers, I start them differently. Now, I add something in the beginning of my prayer when I pray. It says, Lord, be with those, touch those who are worse off than me. I say that every time I start to pray. It takes 8 seconds to say that, for the average person to say that. Lord, be with those, touch those, or sometimes I'll say heal those that are worse off than me. Pray for them. And I'm one of those who believe the more people that are praying for something, the more likely the Lord is to make it happen. The more people that are praying for it. You might be on the ground now and you might not. But pray for those that are every time you pray. Every time you pray, start your prayer like that. Be with those people. Heal those people that are worse off than me. 8 seconds. Most of you, when you pray, got an extra 8 seconds to talk. Don't forget about those people. Be with each of them. All right, let us go ahead and start a closing hymn. And Calvin, I don't care what you do, I'm not going to sing. So you can do what you want with this mic.